What happens when you take eyewear and remove hands completely? No cutting, no polishing blocks, no sheets of acetate curing over time. Just powder and a laser.
You are now tuned in to the Optical Gallery.
If you're new to the channel, I'm Nick, curator of eyewear, lens artist and dispensing optician at the Optical Gallery. And in this video we're diving into something that I think a lot of collectors don't fully understand yet. 3D printed eyewear. Not just what it is, but why people don't connect with it straight away, and why I've completely changed my perspective on it. Now, I'll be honest with you, for a long time I saw it, but I didn't really respect it. Because when you come from Italian acetate, Japanese titanium, hand-finished detail, there's a romance to that. You've got acetate being mixed, colours layered, left to cure, then hand-polished, refined and finished by real people. And there's a warmth to that process. There's a story and there's something human about it. And 3D printing, well, it doesn't give you that same feeling. And I think that's where most people stop. But that's also where I was wrong. So let's break this down properly, because this isn't just printed plastic. Most high-end 3D printed eyewear, Götti Dimensions, MYKITA MYLON, Monoqool, uses something called polyamide powder. Think of it like a very fine nylon dust. A laser scans across it, and wherever it touches, it fuses the material together. Layer by layer, micron by micron, the frame is built. Not carved, not moulded, built. This process is called Selective Laser Sintering, and that allows control over structure, flexibility, thickness and weight during the design process. Not all 3D printing is the same. You've got, as I mentioned, selective laser sintering, multi-jet fusion, filament-based printing and metal laser printing, each with different finishes, different strengths, different possibilities. So even within 3D printed eyewear, there are levels to it. The frame that comes out of the printer is not finished. It's rough, it's dusty, and then it goes through cleaning, smoothing, surface treatment and colouring. Because colour is still one of the hardest things to get right, especially when you push lighter tones, translucent finishes, refined colour work. So when it's done well, that's craftsmanship. Now, I'm going to show you something I actually wear. This is my Götti Dimension frame, the Matej model. And I think it's important to show you this, because I don't just talk about it, I wear it. And what struck me first was the weight. It looks structured, but it's incredibly light. And the comfort is where it really clicked for me. That's when I realised this is designed to be worn. Now, if you're a regular viewer of the channel, you may have realised when it comes to eyewear, I'm drawn to more niche artistic designs. And 3D printing is where it becomes a designer's playground. Compared to traditional eyewear, bar some exceptions like Teo, Kubarum, Masahiro Maruyama, generally you are limited. But with 3D printing, those limits disappear. If you can design it, you can build it. And that's why you're seeing brands like Impressio, Parasite, Mawo, and Paloceras, each pushing it differently. Some focusing more on performance, some on minimalism, and some on expression. And it's still evolving. Recently I saw prototype images of internal structures, layered geometry, textures that don't exist traditionally, even designs within the frame itself. Almost like those glass blocks where the image is suspended inside. What are they called? 3D crystal photos. But now, inside eyewear. That's when you realise this isn't trying to replace traditional eyewear. It's doing something completely different. There's also a sustainability conversation here. Instead of cutting material away, you're building only what you need. Less waste, and in some systems, unused material can be reused. And then you've got brands like Vava working with bio-based materials derived from castor beans. So now you're not changing the process, you're changing the material itself. It's not perfect, but it's definitely a step in the right direction. Now, I understand why collectors hesitate, because traditional eyewear has history and soul. But think about art. There was a time where the only way to capture something was to paint it. Then photography came along, and people probably said, that's not art. But today photography is art. And now we've got digital art. Artists like JJ Adams, who, a personally love, by the way. In fact, I've got a piece of his hanging in our Twickenham gallery. But creating incredible work, sometimes without even touching the canvas in the traditional way. And no one questions it. So I think with 3D printed eyewear, we're in that same moment. Just because someone isn't carving the frame, doesn't mean it's not art. You just might not see it yet. Now here's where it gets really interesting. 3D printed titanium. Instead of cutting and assembling components, titanium powder is fused, layer by layer, using a high-powered laser. And what's fascinating is it actually looks like liquid metal, but it's not being poured. What you're seeing is something called the melt pool, where a laser melts the titanium powder, creating a liquid state that instantly solidifies, layer by layer. And controlling that melt pool is one of the hardest parts of the process, but it allows incredible precision, strength, and a completely new design process. Now, let's talk lenses. Traditional lens manufacturing hasn't actually changed that much. Yes, freeform technology has improved lenses massively, more precise, more personalized. But the process itself still involves casting blanks, surfacing, polishing, and coating. Multiple stages. Now compare that to 3D printed lenses, where the lens is built layer by layer with precision from the start. Yes, this technology exists, and companies like Luxexcel are pioneering this. This is where things get really exciting. You may have seen lenses that change color when you interact with the frame. That's called electrochromic technology, and that integration only really becomes possible through 3D printed lens systems. Meta have recently acquired Luxexcel, and when you look at projects with companies like Lumos embedding display systems inside lenses, you start to understand why this isn't just eyewear anymore. This is wearable technology. And I'll be honest, this is where I've gone down the rabbit hole, because even 6 months ago, I probably would have been just as skeptical as some of the collectors watching this. But now, I'm seeing where this is going, and it's big. I'm not saying this replaces anything. I still love acetate, I still love titanium, but this adds something new. A new way of thinking, a new form of creativity, a new direction not just for eyewear, but for optics as a whole. And once you understand it, you realise this is actually really exciting and definitely worth exploring, as it's here to stay. So I want to ask you, where do you stand on 3D printed eyewear? Is it something you're starting to appreciate? Or are you still drawn more towards the traditional materials? Let me know in the comments, because I geek out over this stuff and I'd really love to hear your take. And if you want to see what 3D printing looks like in the hands of a designer, I met someone at Mido who's pushing that space creatively. Go watch that next. Until next time, protect your eyes and look good doing it.